Okay, I have got a list of questions from you. These are from my live streams. I have a very good moderator for all my live streams, and he collects all of the questions. I never get to all of them. If you guys want to join me, I do a live stream every Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. I always give away signed books during that live stream. So if you come, you might be able to win a book. So I think it'll be fun. Let's get right into it. Question number 1 from SV Argo. Is a submarine a good cruising boat? Well, it's very protected. There's 3 inches of steel on that hull. I've always said I love a 3-inch solid steel hull. Riding under the water, you're not exposed to the wind as much. The sails don't work as well, though. I would say it's a bit expensive. It's on the $1.2 billion for that boat. So, you get pros and cons. So let's get into it. Seriously. So Sue A5060. Well, hi, Sue. What do you think is the biggest mistake offshore sailors make? Well, Sue, I think the biggest mistake that offshore sailors make is not respecting the ocean. And, when I started doing this education stuff, I didn't want to be like a doomsdayer or a naysayer or somebody that's always like, hey, the ocean's about to kill you. But, after this many miles, I see it time and time again where people are just overconfident and they're just like, we'll figure it out there. We'll make it work. And I'm all about going for adventure and taking risks, but they have to be mitigated a little bit. And you will get humbled eventually by the ocean if you sail long enough. So you might as well set yourself up for success and, read my book. There's a lot of that in here. Number 2, HC Sven Dracones. That's a cool name, dude. What are 3 examples of the smallest boat you'd have confidence taking across the Pacific? Ooh, that's a good question. The Pacific, that's a big run. I think maybe like a Flicka 20, North Sea 27, and probably anything designed by Lyle Hess. He designed the Bristol Channel Cutter. He designed Taliesin for the Pardis. He designs like little pocket cruisers. Yeah, I think something strong and shaped kind of like that North Sea shape, good to go. The Falmouth Cutter, that's a 22-foot boat. Yeah, that's probably the smallest one I'd want to take across. The older I get, the bigger the boat I want, I want to be comfortable. I want to be able to make dinner. I want to be able to eat that dinner with someone else. I want to have another person on the boat. I don't want to do this solo. I think that life is about sharing. Number 3. At CyberHacker7169. Don't hack me, please, if I don't answer this correctly. Monohull or catamaran for a huge storm and really bad weather? Well, that's kind of a no-brainer, man. I think you guys would know my answer to that since I've told you repeatedly that I have PTSD from my catamaran almost killing me when it ripped in half off of Hawaii. No, I don't really love the motion of cats. I don't think they're really the best vehicle for like a expedition style cruising. I do think they're very good platforms for milk run, you can circumnavigate in them. Obviously, a lot of people do. Just for me, I prefer the motion of a monohull, even though it's heeled over. I like to be, in something big and heavy, especially like you asked, in big seas, huge storm, really bad weather. Obviously, yes, I want something as heavy and as big and as fat and as tankish as possible, because you're getting freaking smashed by these waves, man. What would you rather be on, something that was this thick or something that was this thick? It's kind of a no-brainer. Next, Ocean's 11. I like it. Oh, I get it. Ocean's Yo 11. What will be your next boat? Ooh, that's a good one. And I think actually there's a couple of people that have asked that. Chubb and Tub says, what's next for you? Have you sold your oyster? Are you staying ashore for a while? So my plan is, I don't have a plan. I need a break from the boat. I've been living on boats for 19 years on sailboats and 5 years in the Navy before that. I took a little break in between, and I took a break during COVID when I lost my cat. There was like an 8-month break there while I was looking for another boat and raising some money. And I need a break, man. I got a 2-year-old. She's very with it. She's an intelligent one, and she wants to be around kids, and she loves to be on the beach. And I don't know, man. I just feel like I'm kind of robbing her a little bit by putting her on a boat and doing what I want to do. So I'm taking a little break. We're at an apartment in Medellin right now. We're doing Airbnbs right now, to be completely honest, just for the next probably 4 months, because I've got a big trip to, we're doing the Newport show, we're doing the Cannes show, we're doing the Annapolis show. I'll have a booth in Annapolis. I'm launching a new software product. My other book is almost finished, so I'll be launching that soon. I'm super busy with work, so that's kind of what I'm doing. And I'm making all these things for you guys and to kind of help this community out, you know? Like, there's this book, and then I'm writing Be the Crew, and then my software thing's going to be rad. It's completely going to be something to help everybody out, and I'm excited. I really just want to focus on work right now. Yeah, I'll get another boat eventually. I do really miss the water. To tell you God's honest truth, I have salt water in my veins, and it's drying up, dude, and I need to get back. I need to get back on the water. I'm like looking at real estate in Puerto Rico. Wait, babe, we can buy this shack right on the beach. We could just jump out with my spear gun and I could spearfish. I've been spearfishing, man. Anyway, it's always a give and take. Life is about balance, right? Next, Mr. Blocky TV just bought a Scanmar 40. Good boat for circumnavigation or bad decision? Let me look that up because I don't know what a Scanmar 40 is. Scandinavian appeal. The Scanmar 40. Oh, that looks like a nice boat. Do they all have arches on the back? I do love the arch on the back of that one. Let's go to Sailboat Data. That's my favorite place to go to get sailboat data, just like the name says. I love that. Let's see. It's a fin with a spade rudder. Not my favorite. Its displacement is 17,000 pounds. That's 7.5 tons. Pretty light for a 40-foot boat. The ballast is 3,500 kilograms, so it's got almost 50% ballast. That's really good. Max draft is 7 foot almost. So yeah, it's like a lighter, racier boat. The sail area displacement is 19, which means it's right on the cusp of being like total race boat. In my opinion, it should be a little lower than that. So that tells me that it's got a pretty high mast. Ballast displacement, like I said, is almost 50%. That's amazing. Displacement to length, like I said, is below that 200 mark threshold that's kind of my line, I guess, for offshore, going around the world boats. The comfort ratio is pretty small, but that's kind of skewed towards longer boats. And if you want to understand what all of these numbers mean, you can click up here or maybe up here, and I'll put the link to that video I did with Plucky explaining all of the formulas and what all these numbers mean. So it's pretty light, bro, and I don't like the spade rudder. I would prefer like at least a 60% skeg on that thing. But a lot of people have taken a lot of boats across the world, so I wouldn't, it's going to need some upgrading. I would make sure that all the bulkheads are fully tabbed in. I'd make sure that all the cleats are big enough. When you're cruising, you're using the boat like a bulldozer. Ryan from Sail Libre actually said it best to me. He said, we're using a Maserati as a bulldozer. And that's such a good analogy because, you're really beating the boat up. So just make sure that everything's really strong, fit to the deck really well. Everything's big and heavy, and it just doesn't look like that to me on this boat. But I don't know. I'm not really sure. Okay, next. I just bought a Cal 40. Could you tell me a little bit about this boat? Yeah, man, Cal 40, good job, bro. Those are great boats. Super, super famous boats. One of the coolest stories, Cal, the guy behind Cal was Cal Jensen. He started Jensen Marine in the late 50s, I think. It was like 58 or something like that. He had Bill Lapworth make, I think he made 4 or 5 boats for him. It was like a 24 and a 30. And then he made this 40, and the 40 just smoked everything. I think it won the Transpac, and it was a very famous boat for its day. And Cal was getting on in years. So after the success of all those boats, he actually sold that company, I think, to a VC group. I think it was like the early, what VC groups were in the 60s. And basically they like moved the factory a couple times, sold it again to another group, and ran it into the ground, and it ended up dying. And that's kind of the story. Like it gets too expensive in California. Everybody wants higher wages there, so the taxes are crazy. So they move it to Florida. That doesn't work out. They lose some of their production value. They lose all of the artisans that know the boat, and then their quality goes down. And then they try to move it to somewhere even cheaper, and or maybe to save it, and then it just didn't happen. But if you can find one of those 40s that's from the Jensen era, they're great boats, really cool, kind of cutting edge for the time. Pretty narrow now, pretty sparse interiors now, but super, super good boats, man. Some of those boats, I've seen one for sale for like a $250,000 for, that's almost a 70-year-old boat now. Well, 60-year-old boat now. And yeah, it's a good boat. Congratulations, my friend. Okay, next from Samstory 1038. Do you prefer fore-reaching or downwind versus heaving to escape a storm? That is a very good question. And in chapter 13 of my book, I talk about this. I hate to keep referencing this, but if you really want to know, read this, because your question comes from a place of naivety, and it's not bad. It's just, you do whatever tactic works for you at the time. It may not make sense to forereach. It may not make sense to turn around and heave to. It may be the waves and the wind may be too big or too wild for you to safely turn around and heave to. So like heaving to is a technique where you got to think about it ahead of time and like pick your window where to do that, and hopefully it works. You got to pick how to get out of it too if it's not working for you. And fore-reaching, basically, if you don't know, fore-reaching is kind of like beating with a really, really secured down sails. It's kind of still making progress. Heaving to is where you stop the boat and backwind the sails, and you're not making progress. You're kind of just sitting like a duck, but it's comfortable. And if you do it right and you have the right kind of boat, it's one of my favorite techniques. And then running with the wind can be super dangerous if you're not on the right boat. Like say you're on a big light cat and there's big huge waves and you're surfing down those waves and your rudders are losing traction or they're ventilating, which means they're like bubbles are coming up and it's getting squirrely. You can very, very easily broach a monohull and roll it. You can easily pitch pull a catamaran that way. So honestly, it just depends on the situation. I hate to give you that vague answer, but you need more information, and you need more information about how storm tactics work and how they work together and how to decide whether this technique is going to be one I'm going to stay with right now or not. And I'm telling you, that's all in my book. Go buy my book and read chapter 13. As a matter of fact, I'll send you chapter 13 for free. Contact me and I'll send it to you. Mr. Cushing Hamlin, when running with the wind with a drogue out, are you able to steer at all or completely at the mercy of the wind direction? No, you're able to steer. Hell yeah. The drogue just slows you down. It's just a drag device. So drogues are like, you can use 150 cones behind you, or you can use a big warp behind you, or you can use one of those little like shark drogues, which is like a little mouth of a shark that kind of catches the water and drags behind you. Basically, you can use a tire if it stays underwater, like tie some chain to a tire and throw it out the back as long as it slows you down. And basically what that's doing is exactly what I was explaining with the last question. Instead of you surfing wildly down waves, that thing stops your ass end and keeps your ass end back and keeps you from getting out of control and slows you down enough where you're not going to pitch pull, you're not going to broach. Because basically what happens when you're in a big sea is the waves are going like this, right? And in between the trough of the wave and in between the two waves in the trough, you smoke down one face of a wave, and then you hit the next wave and you stop. And then this wave energy is still going, and it travels up and it hits your ass, and it either the boat loses rudder and turns sideways, and then the wave rolls you over, or you can plow your boat into the next wave and pitch pull. That happened to Susie Goodall in a Rustler 36, and the Rustler 36 was one of those famous boats that was like the best boat you could buy at the time. It was in the Golden Globe race in 2018. She pitch pulled her boat and had to abandon it, I think. There's a interview with her. I watched it years ago, so I don't remember all of the details, but it's really good. Go and check it out. So that drogue keeps you from doing that. And Susie Goodall in this interview was like, yeah, if I would have had a drogue, it probably would have helped. Michael 476B says, how do you adjust a drogue? The pictures show it all the way out on the bridle. You don't adjust a drogue. Once it's out, it's set, it's done. You don't adjust it. You can use a drogue as a sailing kind of a rudder. If you lose your rudder, you can use your drogue to sail by adjusting the bridle lengths and kind of pulling the boat ass end one way or the other. That is a technique that would get you home. But normally, the way you use a drogue is it's an emergency, you're out of control, or you're overpowered, or the waves are huge, and you set it all up ahead of time, put it into a bag, and then when you get it out, you set it on the 2 points that are the hardest on your boat, like the winches or the aft cleats, or some people put in like special chain plates just for this. And then you throw it in the water and get the hell out of the way. Because that thing, once it snaps tight, it's done. You're not adjusting it anymore. You may be talking about a sea anchor, and you can adjust the sea anchor, but it's also very dangerous because it's under a lot of load. So 2 different things. Again, I explained it in my book, the difference. It's a little bit too much to go into right now, but yeah, you don't really adjust it. You don't have to. I mean, you can put a Jordan Series drogue, which is the one with all the cones, into a winch, and then you could winch it kind of back and forth to adjust the drag on it. But honestly, it's probably more hassle than it's worth, to tell you the truth. You probably, in that situation, just want to set it and forget it. Let it drag you. Let it slow you down as much as you can. And the more you slow her, probably the better, unless you're getting pooped by waves, which is another problem. Which is why all these techniques, you need to have some fluidity on okay, now this isn't working, what do we do, kind of thing. Last storm tactics question. 555 Frontier, would you recommend removing solar panels before the storm hits? I mean, it would have to be a pretty bad storm for you to have to like remove your solar panels. I've never done that. I've removed the Bimini and the Dodger and put the sails down and removed the foresail. Like if you're on anchor and you're going to get hit by a tropical storm or something and you know it's going to be 70, 80 knots, you probably want to take down any kind of windage on the top of the boat. Solar panels, sure. Yeah, if you can get them down easily, that'd be good. I lost a solar panel one time in a storm off of New England. I was almost to Bermuda, and it was the middle of the night. Of course, it always happens in the middle of the night, and it blew that panel off so violently. I was like, boom, 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 and I went outside and like, oh wow, that's cool. And I'd heard it ticking, like I guess maybe one of the screws fell out, or one of the screws, it like broke the screw or something. But the other 3 screws were still in the arch, and it just ripped the extrusion right through it. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't like risk anything to go and get the solar panels because they're only a couple $100 a piece, and it's really like not worth risking your life over. They will be the failure point. They're just a piece of glass with a piece of very thin aluminum. I mean, that's not going to sink your boat. Next, Equil 11235. What is your view on junk sails on unstayed masts for relaxed blue water cruising? Relaxed blue water cruising. I like how you put relaxed blue water cruising, not as opposed to like nail biting, white knuckle blue water cruising. I have to be honest, I don't know a lot about junks. I had researched them and I read a couple of books about them. There's a couple of really famous books. One of them, the guys had been going around the world for a long time and had different color sails a bunch of the times. I'll put the link in the description. But I've been to look at boats with junk rigs. A lot of the time, the thing about a junk rig is it's custom, and there's not going to be anybody that can help you. So if you're the type of person that's a tinkerer and you love working on boats and you love having like a funky system, I have heard many stories that, the whole race fleet got messed up and torn sails and broken masts, and then the junk rig comes in and it has like 2 broken battens, and all you have to do is just take a piece of bamboo and put it in there, and then now you're fixed your boat. That is to say, I think junk rigs are a bit easier to run, easier to fix, easier to be that guy where you're doing everything yourself, but they're more utilitarian. Like, the junk rigs that I've seen are pretty custom, and don't expect to get help, but you're going to be the talk of the town. And if you like learning new things, it's kind of like, hey, James, what do you think about synthetic rigging? It's not for everybody. I love it. The rigging is 30% stronger than steel. It's cool to know how to splice. You're going to become a better sailor for doing it, but there's a learning curve there, and you better be that type of person that loves to learn and loves to fiddle with stuff, So you can't just go and buy like a new sail. You have to have it made, and you have to have the measurements, and you have to draw it yourself, and then you have to be able to probably repair it yourself, and then you have to have a couple extra battens, and it's just a different whole system. Okay, next, VO1 Tech. Have you ever sailed with an aero rig? I have sailed with an aero rig, and you're not the first one to bring it up to me, and I think the idea is very cool. I don't prefer having an articulating mast. And again, with the junk rig, it's a funky one. You're not going to be able to get a lot of help. You have to maintain and fix that yourself. And I personally don't really love anything articulating. I don't like articulating keels. I don't like articulating swim steps. I don't like articulating masts. I just don't think that it's good to have. I don't like articulating solar platforms. I know it's really cool and it tickles that inner engineer or maybe the outer engineer, because a lot of you guys are engineers, but sometimes you just got to push that guy aside and say, what's going to be the most simple way for me to fix this thing if it breaks? And everything breaks. So do you want the most complicated thing, or do you want something that's just stick, hole, glue, sail? You know what I mean? Like, I kind of err on the side of simplicity and stupidity. At Sailing Trimaran Pinta, fiberglass mast. Can I wrap in carbon fiber, or is it strong enough? I don't think it's strong enough, my friend. I think that you're probably going to have to get a carbon fiber mast made. I would say it's probably fine for flipping around. I bet that thing bends like a lot though, right? I have never heard of anybody cruising around with a fiberglass mast. I would definitely, before you take it anywhere offshore, get a naval architect to look at that. I am not qualified to answer that question, but I can tell you, I've never seen a fiberglass mast. I've seen plenty of carbon masts. I've seen carbon masts break. I had fiberglass tubes, just probably like your mast, for my rudder posts on my catamaran, and they were double thickness tubes, so two tubes epoxied in together. It was about that thick of solid vacuum bagged fiberglass, and they snapped, and it was a bad idea, and I replaced them with metal, and the metal lasted. So I don't know, take that as you may, but I wouldn't do it. Next, Benjamin Kaiser, 3076. Are all sailboats money pits? Can you ever make money or at least break even? Blue water boat under 100,000. Yeah, I mean, if you're smart about it, look, it's a depreciating asset. They have a known depreciation curve. It is very difficult to make money. You can trade like years of your labor for upgrading the boat to a point where if you had bought it at a super big discount, now it's worth what it's worth on the normal depreciation curve. Yes, but is that making money? Usually I think people break even if lose money. You know what I mean? Like, it's very, very rare that anybody makes any money, except for people that are like flipping boats, like flipping boats. And flipping is just, you buy a boat for cheap at a distress sale, you put new cushions on it and clean it up and paint it and then sell it, and you make a couple of grand. I've done that before, but making money on blue water boats, you're barking up the wrong tree. It's an exercise in futility, my friend. I definitely wouldn't do it on like a, this is what I need for money kind of thing. I need to support my family. I will say one last thing. I have heard of people buying boats, like cruising boats, cheaply and then sailing them to Australia. I think you might have to be Australian for this to work, but and selling them in Australia because they command a premium. But no, I don't think there's any way to actually make money flipping sailboats like that, especially expensive ones. Because, one boat goes wrong or you do one thing wrong and you're going to lose everything. Okay, next. Paul Justin 75. What mid-size monohull in the beer budget territory, 50,000-ish, would you recommend for island hopping? Oh man, there's so many boats for that. You can do that in a Catalina. You can do that in a Jeanneau 42 DS. You probably can't get one of those for 50 grand though. You probably want to go a little older. The Irwins, the Gulf Stars, those are great boats for that. A little, probably even too much boat for that. Island hopping only, if you really want to just go like through the Caribbean, Morgans are good for that. You can get those for 50 grand, like a Morgan 41. Try to get the Catalina. After Catalina bought Morgan, they changed the bottom profile. They're much better sailors. But even the first ones, they're perfect live aboard party boats, have fun. They're fat. They're not really great sailboats, but who cares? You're using it as a platform to enjoy life. You know what I mean? That's what it's for. Even Beneteaus, like I don't talk about Beneteau much on this channel because I'm more of an offshore sailor, but if you're just going around tooting around, there's tons of Beneteaus in the Caribbean tooting around. Just buy something and have fun with it, dude. And then if it doesn't fit you, sell it, buy something else. Okay, Jason Smith, 187. Looking at an Amel Santorini for $175,000. Wow, that's an expensive one. Around my max budget. Leaves a pot of $60,000 for the first 2 years. Am I being realistic? Let me tell you what I know about sailboat buyers, especially ones that want to go out and sail around the world. If you buy a boat, you're going to spend somewhere around 0.25% of the boat, or 25% of the boat the first year, and about 15% of the boat in every subsequent year. Okay, you can use that as a pretty good base number. Now, if you find the perfect boat and it maxes out your max, I have 300 grand and this one's 304,000 and I managed to borrow 4 grand from a friend, you can get away with deferring that maintenance and deferring those upgrades that you want. But most of the time, if you budget 25% of the boat's cost the first year, that's probably about what you're going to need, because it's deferred maintenance from the last owner. It's things that you want to change, things that you want to upgrade, things that you feel like you need, which you probably don't need. A really, really good advice that I got from somebody else was take the boat out for 6 months and live with it and start a relationship with her. And she'll tell you what she needs, man. Don't just go out and start buying a bunch of crap just to be able to spend that 60 grand that's burning a hole in your pocket. You will spend it, I promise you, but you're not going to need to spend it right now. Noxon 8 Resurrection. Wow, that's a mouthful. Is it true that an 1985 boat will be hard to get insurance and marinas don't let you in? That's two different things. Let me dispel this problem, because there's two types of insurance. There's hull insurance and there's liability insurance. You can get liability insurance on almost anything. If you need an insurance guy, I know a good guy. Let me know and I'll send you his number. But you can't get hull insurance, like 100%. I'm going to pay you for the hull if you hit a container and sink the boat, that kind of thing. I'm going to pay you all that. That's harder to get if the boat's over 40 years. It's actually getting kind of hard to get if the boat's over 30 years now. But as soon as it hits that 40-year-old mark, which, 85 is what, 41? It's at that point. So you need, if you're buying boats in this era, you need to kind of factor that into your monetary decisions and your negotiations decisions, because you're going to inherit that. If you buy a boat that's 37 years old, by the time you sell it, it's going to be 40 probably. And you're going to get that little notch from the depreciation curve, okay? Edward Reynolds, 2488. Do you think if a guy is 80 years old, is that too old to start offshore sailing? I'm from Sweden, and this is my first time online. Wow. Welcome, my friend. Edward, I think you're not too old to start. I know some octogenarians that sail. I think that you better get started now. I think that you should probably take crew with you at first, just to make sure that you are able to not get in a situation where it's going to be too much for you. I think there's going to be some things you can't do. I think it's going to take you a lot longer to recover. I go for it, man. Go for it. Please do it. Honestly, as long as you have the range of motion, like if you can lift your leg up to your chest and climb over coaming and climb over the lifelines, and if you can get yourself out of the water onto the boat, then yeah. And that means you're probably going to have to set yourself up for success here by buying a boat with a sugar scoop transom that's easier to get out of the water, just in case you fall in. You're going to have like all these mitigations for that. But yeah, man, there's plenty of people sailing into their 80s. It's rare. I think around 75 is where it becomes very difficult, but I've met plenty of couples in their mid 70s up into 80 that were sailing around the world still, just alone, them two. One of them I was in Easter Island with, which is so badass. They were like 76 years old in Easter Island, and they flipped their dinghy on the entrance because the entrance closes out sometimes. And they were out for like a week, dude. We were bringing them food because we were checking on them to make sure they were okay. And yeah, they were, that's a kind of uses all your muscles. You got to tread water. You got to get your dinghy out. You got to fix your motor. So after that, you're smoked. And, that's kind of the trade-off. But yeah, go do it. Absolutely. Take crew with you, man. Stephen Nini, 605. Thoughts on solo sailing? I'm divorced and my daughter's grown up, wanting to go on my own. Yeah, there's two sides of solo sailing, right? There's like this propped up on a pedestal, oh my God, that guy sailed across the Pacific solo. And then there's the reality where you're solo, dude. You're alone. It's cool for like the first month. And then it's like, this sucks. I would really like to find somebody to share this with, which is not hard to do. Once you have a boat, it's like, hey, want to go sail across the Atlantic with me? Easy to find somebody that's going to do that. You can use Find a Crew, Crew Finder, Facebook groups is a really good way to do that. Make sure you vet all these people. That's what my next book is about. And it's how to vet all the people you're going to go with. And I personally, I've done it. I pushed myself to do it. I did 30 days in the dangerous archipelago, the Tuamotu solo. That was crazy. I was so starved for sleep that I saw my grandmother near the mast, and I was hearing my voice in the wind. It was crazy. But yeah, I think moreover, a lot of people, they start with the inclination of, oh yes, this is going to be challenging and fun. And then after 6 months, it's like, ugh. I think the sailing is made to be shared, honestly. But go and you'll meet people, and don't let that stop you just because you don't have a partner right now. You'll find one. It's very easy to find a partner once you're out sailing. SY Amanda of Sweden. Oh yeah, I've seen you before. Hi. Thoughts on being just two in a couple during a crossing or taking crew to share hours? In my website, if you go to bethecaptain.com/locker, I've got downloadable watch schedules, and you can kind of like play with them, print them out and play with them and fill them in, and you'll get the idea of like how much sleep you'll be getting. For two people, the way that me and my ex-girlfriend did it, I would just stay up until like 3 o'clock in the morning, and then she would take it from like 3 to 8 o'clock in the morning, and then I'd get up again and we'd have our day. And it was, we just made it work. I'd take naps during the day. She'd take naps during the day. And that's kind of how we made it work. Everybody has their own way to do it. Don't just go to sleep. You have to have a watch. My favorite watch schedule is 5 people, because you can do 2.5 on, 10 off. And it rotates the schedule by a half an hour every 12 hours. Okay. So 2.5 plus 10 is 12.5. So 12.5, 12.5, 12.5, 12.5. So 1 hour a day. So if you have the midnight to 2:30 watch today, you're going to have the 11 to 1:30 tomorrow, and the 10 to, well, what is that? Midnight 30 the next day. So it's fair for the crew. It gives them 10 hours of sleep, or at least off watch, so that they can sleep. You very rarely have 2 watches in the same day where you're just smoked. And I think that's the safest way. If you're going to go on multi-day passages, like over 7 days, take 5 of you. It's the best way if you can fit them on your boat. Michael Morlag, 9028. We want to find out if sailing is for us. How do we find people that can take me and my wife for a leg or two and show us the ropes? Well, like I just said, Find a Crew is a good spot. Facebook groups is an excellent spot. Meetup.com, Crew Finder. You can pay. If you go to sailingzingaro.com, I have a list of people that are my friends. They're all my friends, and they all do paid charter on their boat for offshore. So if you want to like be introduced to an offshore thing. But if you're just trying to get into sailing, I mean, go down to your local sailing club. That's what I tell everybody, is go down to your local sailing club, your local marina, and sign up. That is the best way. Go walk the docks on the beer can race night. Find out which night is race night. Go walk the docks and say, do you need rail meat? And basically your job is just to be weight on the windward side of the boat. And, that's a good introduction. And then you start making friends, and then you go out drinking with them afterwards or whatever. And then, one thing leads to another, and now you're a captain. It doesn't really work like that. There's a couple of extra steps in there, but that's kind of the way it works, man. It's a real, I need to get off my ass and get out sailing kind of thing. You can't really do this from your computer. Eda del Bianco, second time live from Italy. Oh, wow. Thanks, man. Thanks for tuning in. By the way, if you're just tuning into this, I have live streams every Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Some advice for sailing with kids. Ooh, sailing with children. I advise you not to do it. No, I mean, if you have kids, if they're young, get nets, dude. Nets, that made me so much. I had freaking heart palpitations when the kid was like 1, because she could climb the stairs, no problem. And man, just 1 second, you just take your eyes off. And I actually met a couple that lost a 2-year-old out offshore, and they were destroyed, and obviously it ruined their lives. So be very careful with children. If they're old enough when they can swim and they can float and you can come back and get them, that takes a lot of the pressure off. And, I suggest you have snacks for them. I suggest you give them jobs. I suggest you make them part of the crew. Kids really like to be part of the crew. They love having their little thing that they do. So yeah, that's my favorite thing. And then, have an iPad with some movies on it. If you're going to go on longer passages, have some books, have some chocolate. Treats are like almost the number one thing to have with children, and don't just give them out, but reward them with treats like a puppy. Last little section, we're going to call this the lightning round. I'm going to have like 10 seconds to answer these questions. From Horatio Ellison, what is your favorite day sailor? Islander 28. Johnny Lightning 1491. Lazy Jacks or Dutchman? Absolutely Lazy Jacks. I hate Dutchmans. Same guy, Johnny Lightning. Autopilot or wind vane? I think you should have both, but if I had to choose one, I would choose Autopilot, because Autopilot gets used a lot more than wind vane does. Mark Allen, do you prefer Pullman berth or forward berths? Pullman berth to forward berth any day. Charles Shelby, generator or high output alternator? Ooh, that's a hard one. I'd say generator, just because it's a separate thing. You have like two. You can have a low output alternator on your one engine and your generator, and if one of the engines dies, then you still can make power. Genex on the go. What's up, guys? Metal standing rigging or Dyneema if building? Oof. That, like I said, I answered that earlier in this video, and I think if you want to be a better sailor and be a better rigger and be a better splicer, you're going to learn how to splice every single line if you do that. So I say go ahead, but you have to be those kind of tinkering people. Sailing aviator, what type of tea do you drink? It takes a lot of time to prepare. No, it doesn't. I have an electric kettle, and it takes 30 seconds to warm that up, and I like Earl Grey tea with a little bit of almond milk in it, and the almond milk lives in the fridge. Almond milk, water, tea bag. It doesn't take any time. It's much faster than coffee. Mark Allen again, what day of the week can you drive your new car? I can drive my new car any day of the week because it's an antique. I have a 1966 F-250 four-door, which is a pretty rare car. They only made like 300 or 400 of them, maybe 600. But there's not very many left, and it's got the original 390 in it. And I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but I'm a car guy. Thanks for that question. Sea Shepherds, have you ever found an island by smell? I have absolutely 100% smelled an island before I saw it. And if you're out to sea for more than 6 days, let's say, you're going to smell it too. You know what's crazy is one time I was sailing across the Pacific, hadn't seen land in 20 days or something. I smelled garbage. Oh, like the worst garbage smell. It was San Francisco. San Francisco smells like garbage from the sea. Zatar Honey, what do you think about the design of the blue Narcissus from Final Fantasy IX? Would you sail it? Oh, I remember this question, actually. I remember looking this up. This was like an airship. Yeah, hell yeah, I'd sail that. That sounds cool as shit. Okay, Johnny Lightning, do you have a recording of Turn the Page by you? I caught a little bit of your version one time and I liked it. Oh man, that's cool. Yes, I think I do have a recording of that, and maybe I'll put it up on my press page. I'll put some recordings of my music. One of these days, I just got a new, actually it's right here. I just got a new microphone, and I bought this for recording the guitar. So I need to get a stand for it, but this is a cool looking one, right? It's a bit different than this one. It doesn't need as much amplification. This mic needs a lot, so it can get the subtleties of the guitar, because the guitar was kind of like drowning out and skipping on this mic is weird. So yeah, I'll do some guitar stuff for you guys. That's cool. That's cool of you, man. All right, I'm going to answer 2 more questions, okay? These are the last 2. Guitar Boss. Oh, that's funny. It's Guitar Boss. I just got done talking about my new microphone. I know it sounds crazy. How about having weapons? Yeah, I think the captain shouldn't discuss that, honestly. If you choose to have weapons, it's your own choice. It's a personal choice. As Americans, it's very easy for us to have access to weapons. They are stupid illegal in a lot of the countries that you go to if you don't declare them. So if you're going to go around with a weapon, I would say you better be ready to declare it and you better be ready to lose it. And the problem with declaring it is you can get the wrong weapon back, and you have to go all the way back to the place that you declared the weapon to get it back. And some people have all these crazy things where they have a gun in a like under the floorboard somewhere, or glassed into their boat somewhere. Or I think you can go to jail for 20 years for a weapon. I think that it's a personal choice that pretty much shouldn't be talked about online, honestly. All right, last question. Robin Molina, 2645. You are just talking, but not sailing already for a long time. What's wrong? Well, I touched on that a little earlier, but yeah, I'm just taking a break. Don't worry. I've had boats forever, man. I've been living on boats longer than most people that you know. It's cyclical, and life is cyclical. And right now I have a little girl, and I want to take care of her, and she's going to school, and it's just easier for my business stuff if I have a place. I would really love to have enough money to have a boat and a house, but right now I don't. So right now I'm focusing on the business, and hopefully that'll happen in the next, I'd say probably 6 months. I'll probably buy a boat. I'm itching again. Like I said, I'm turning leathery. I need to get back in the salt water. All right. Thank you very much for the questions. Thank you very much for joining me on the lives. I love you guys, and I'll see you on Saturday for the live stream at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bye-bye.